Hello and welcome to our screencast. This is our re-recording of our webinar that we had yesterday. If you were able to join us, awesome. Yesterday, December 10th at 11 a.m. If this is the first time that you're watching it, we're doing this re-recording to make it shorter, more condensed, because I know all of you do not have 45 minutes to allocate to watch a recording. But again, if you were there in person, thank you for showing up. We had a great time, but today I'm going to be concise and to the point and get through our presentation so that you can get the information that you need. Because I know that if you're watching this right now, you're a leader that is responsible for developing people and leaders within your organization. You are connected to the development of culture. And for whatever reason, this title, Stop Training People, Build Them, pulled you in because it's your lived reality. I'll share some data here in a few slides, but the training and the training and development industry is not working. Training and development isn't working in our organizations. The data is very clear, and we'll talk about why here in a second. So I want you to think about what's happening right now in your organization on the training and development landscape and start to think about what's working and what's not and why. And I'm confident that as we get through this presentation, you will find out why it's not working and clear steps of what you can do next to help the training actually stick, to help create a process and a system, not a training program, but a process and a system for how you develop people. Okay? It took me a long time to really get to this point because early in my career, I used to actually think that training was the solution. I thought the better the training, the better the experience, the bigger the transformation, and people are going to get it. They're going to have all these aha moments, kumbaya, boom, they change. And sometimes you can have those moments where people experience something deeply profound that changes them, moves them a little bit in that moment, but then the next day, the next week, things are back to normal. I'm going to talk about why today. It's so important to talk about this subject because the content isn't what changes people. It's the conditions. And I want to talk about how I uncovered those conditions because it's going to be a story unlike anything you've ever heard before. Okay, now my background is in the training and development world. I've served some time as an executive leader in healthcare, but most of my career I've been in the training and consulting and coaching business. I've worked with organizations far and wide in multiple different industries, coaching, training, and consulting. So this is my world, yet I'm here saying that it's not working. So why? Okay, why? Now here's the story that you will have never heard before. I met a philanthropist a long time ago. And if you don't know what a philanthropist is, they have an incredible amount of resources. Typically, they spend their time giving it away. This individual was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he met me, I had this opportunity to sit with him knee to knee in his office, and he asked me something that forever changed my life. He asked, if you could come to this community, 'cause I didn't actually live where he lived. I lived in Utah at the time. I was working for the Arbinger Institute, a training consulting company, and they lived in Salem, Oregon. Okay, they were a client of mine, and they flew me up there to talk to them about a variety of different things. And it came to this conversation where he said, if you could move up here and you didn't have to worry about your family being taken care of, you didn't have to worry about resources. If you could be here and you could make a difference to transform our community, what would you do? That's a question that no one ever gets asked from someone like this individual. It was an incredible opportunity. I didn't know what to say. He said, write it down on a piece of paper and send it to me. That's what I did. I went, I spoke with my wife, I thought through it, I prayed, you name it, and I sent this back to him, not knowing what would happen. I didn't know if he was just going to say, I love those ideas, great, or that's a dumb idea. I had no idea what to expect. I sent it back to him. It was 5 bullet points on a piece of paper, and he said, I like it, let's get to work. Completely changed my life, moved my family up there, and we set out to transform our community. Massive scope, not knowing exactly how we were going to do it, what we were going to do, where we were going to start, but the plan was, let's bring leaders together and begin working with them. If we could bring leaders from across sectors together, develop, train them, then they would go back into their organizations, impact their organizations positively, then the community, and so on and so forth. We saw this sort of ripple effect that could maybe happen. Well, we threw everything at this that we could for the first 3 years. He literally said to me, his words were, I will write the check, you do the work. That was it. That was the deal. And he backed that up. He poured resource after resource into this, and we brought in some of the best training, some of the best practices that we could find, research, you name it, to try to transform leaders in our community. I think in 3 years, we trained over 3,000 people. And at the end of 3 years, I looked around and all I could identify was some anecdotal stories here and there. There was no significant or anything I would call transformational change that truly occurred. And I was a bit discouraged, thinking that this is just not possible, right? There's no way that this can actually work. And I was a bit devastated, and I identified a problem that I'm going to talk about today, okay? And this is a problem much deeper than training people. The problem was we were too transactional. I saw so many leaders across our community that went through the same motions, transaction after transaction, handshake after handshake. And I saw that as the problem getting in the way of us getting any deeper. And I didn't know how to fix it. And then one day I went to a community event and everything started to change in our whole strategy and our approach. It changed everything and helped us uncover something that was incredible that I want to share with you. Okay, but I'm going to pause for a moment because I want to just talk more about the problem that's in the industry right now. But I want to emphasize what got me to that point. Okay, because I actually look back and I don't believe that I was fully deserving of having someone like this philanthropist come to me at a very young age and say, "Hey, help us transform our community." At the time, I had no credibility, no credentials to be able to do so. I just had the desire to want it, and I got this opportunity. It was an absolute gift, and there was a purity in that gift. The purity being, we weren't trying to create a business. We weren't trying to make money. It was for the sake of let's create transformational change in our community and figure out how to do it. That was an incredible opportunity, okay? So I want to pause there where I was at this community gathering. So I want you to remember that story, and I'm going to come back to it, okay? Because at that meeting, things changed forever for me and put me ultimately on this journey of discovering. I was on that journey already, but I was doing it wrong. This one helped me really discover what the problem was and how to fix it. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm going to briefly talk about this slide because these are the 7 things that I discovered after that moment. It wasn't quickly, it was still several years of discovery, but this is what the research helped us understand. Okay, there's 7 conditions of transformation. These are what actually change people. Okay, purpose, commitment, common language, vulnerability, consistency, deep trusting relationships, and safe space. So I'm gonna go in depth with those here shortly, but I just want to give you a snapshot that that's what we're going to be talking about today. My hope is that there's going to be a confidence, clarity, and a path forward for you from this. You're going to have confidence that, one, you know how to create transformational change. Well, actually, back up. You're going to know that it's possible. I think that a lot of us start to believe that transformation is too idealistic. It's not based in reality. Maybe we relate it to either spiritual things or like transformation of our health if we're trying to improve our lifestyle. Those are forms of transformation, but the transformation that we're talking about are fundamental shifts towards our positive potential in how we see, think, or behave. Now, transformation is so much different than change. Change can kind of be this a la carte option where we change a little bit here, a little bit there. But transformation comes from intentionality, and it's not a quick fix, and it's the journey. It took me a while to understand that it's the journey, not the destination. But my goal for you today is that you feel confidence in transformation being possible, that you feel clarity in how it actually is created and happens, what this journey looks like, and that you have a path forward. Okay, I want it to be so practical for you by the end of this that you're going to know what to do if this is the only screencast or webinar that you ever watch with me, or if you end up ever engaging with us into the future, you're going to know the path forward. Okay, the problem in the field. This slide is one of my favorites because I love painting the picture of the problem in the training and development industry. The data is clear that most efforts fail. So I'm going to go through some of this data one by one and paint this picture really well. I want you to think about if this relates to your organization and your training landscape that you are a part of, okay? The first is organizational change. There's a lot of data out there. This is just some highlights from perhaps groups that you would recognize and that you would see as credible, but there's a lot of research out there. Okay, organizational change. 60 to 80% of change efforts fail to produce sustained change and improved performance over time. All right, so that means that most of you watching this are failing. Your organization is failing in creating change efforts. Okay, now this is from the Harvard Business Review, and Hughes are the ones that kind of put that data out there. But there's a lot out there. You can find multiple different sources. All right, the second thing is leadership development, and this is a really strong correlation that I want to make. But leadership development, nearly 90% of leadership development efforts do not achieve desired results. That's from McKinsey, Global Research Training Company. 90%, that is almost all of us. Leadership development attempts are not effective. And then the Brandon Hall group said this: 75% of leadership development programs are ineffective. All right, so the data's out there. You can even put a range, 70 to 90%. That's still a significant amount. And now you correlate that to organizational change. It's clear. If you don't have strong leaders, then you're not going to have organizational change efforts be successful. You need strong leaders in order to do that. Your leaders are the sort of the bottleneck. If you don't have strong leaders in your organization, it bottlenecks anything that you want to put in at the top, anything that you want to happen and be successful over time has to go through leadership. I'm not just talking about top-level leaders. I'm talking about all the mid-level leaders in between. They're our bottleneck. If we know how to truly invest in their development and build them, we start to open that bottleneck up. And that's a beautiful thing, and it rarely happens according to the data and my personal lived experience. Okay, even going back to my story, even with millions of dollars poured into this for nothing but that for 3 years, I could not open up that bottleneck. It was clinched tight. Okay, this is so important to paint this picture that what we do does not work. Now, this last data point, there's the last few here around culture transformation. This is from Deloitte. Efforts are only symbolic, nothing more than writing on the wall. I can relate to this well. I can't tell you how many wonderful vision statements I've seen, or great set of values, or all these sort of mottos, but they're not the lived experience of people on the ground. All right? So Harvard found this: culture change fails without addressing the underlying systems. The systems, I'm getting into the solution here, are what open up that bottleneck, right? To allow everything that we want to pour into our organization and our people to actually work. That's part of the solution, the systems. All right, but by and large, most of our efforts to transform, change people, develop leaders, it's failing. Now, the way I talk about this with a lot of the clients that I work with is this gap between what we espouse up top, what we want to actually pour into the funnel, the bottle, and how it's enacted down here. There's usually a disconnect. It's not connecting the way that we would like it to connect. And culture is everything in between. It's what we say is important to us, but it's also how people actually feel and live. So this is great up here, but if it's not matching up, then we're not really living out the potential of our culture. So one part is aligning it. The second is bridging that gap. All right, so that's another way of trying to understand this problem. And now this last data point is probably the most astounding. The training and consulting industry, the training and development industry, is worth over $3 billion, I misspoke, over $350 billion. And that's a data point from actually a couple of years ago. So it's only gone up. So that tells us that the amount of resources and money that we put in to developing people and changing people through training and development, the results are very marginal. Very, very marginal results of it actually working. That's insane if you think about that. We pour so much into it, yet we see very little change. I lived that in an extreme way. I literally had somebody with endless resources invest in this problem and invest in me to figure this out, and our results were so marginal, did not match the amount of time, energy, and resources that we put into it. And that was frustrating. And I bet a lot of you feel that same frustration. Okay, so what actually worked? 1 second. My camera got a little, my slide got a little messed up. Sorry about that. Let's keep moving. So the problem is transaction. So I want to go back to this point in the story, okay? The problem for me was transaction. I noticed that we're transactional. Life comes down to a bunch of exchanges, empty promises, tasks. There's so many things going on that we're trying to accomplish, and handshakes. And then people go back up on their merry way. Nothing's changing. Okay, and the same was true not only in this community level that I was working in, but in individual organizations. The same problem persisted. Well, that day at that event, so I'm going back to the story, that day at that event, I made this realization, and I'm judging people. Okay, I'm sitting there in this event, people are mingling, there's small talk and music playing in the background like most events have, waiting for the meeting to start. And I'm judging people pretty badly, okay? Thinking, I know that person, I know that person, I know that person, they don't mean it, they're being disingenuous, it's not real, it's not authentic, so on and so forth. That was what I was thinking to myself. And then it became so real to me that I was part of the problem. I made eye contact with a leader from across the room, someone that I didn't really like. I didn't like this person. Obviously, they didn't know that I felt that way, but I didn't like them. They made their way towards me because we made this eye contact. I see them coming towards me like they want to talk to me. I stand up with a smile on my face. I reach my hand out. And shake theirs, and I say these words, "It's nice to see you." Now, you know, because I've told you that I didn't feel that way. It was not nice to see them. I didn't like this person. But here I was, smiling, handshake, saying it's nice to see you. A fraud. I didn't mean it. We had 2 seconds of small talk. I sat back down, the meeting begins, and I think to myself, wow, I'm part of the problem. I had this great moment of realization that I was the very problem that I was complaining about. And I felt about this big, but I sat there thinking through, what am I supposed to, how do I fix this? What do I do? And I made it a couple of realizations that changed me forever. One was, we cannot expect transformational outcomes. So I want to go back even to this slide for a second. Boom, boom. We cannot expect this transformational outcome or this change if we start our interactions off with a transaction. That is why the problem is transaction. I can't expect this if I do this. All the way down, think about this to how I greet other people. I greeted this individual with a quick exchange, a quick transaction. So how are we supposed to expect a community outcome of transformation if we start our interactions off that way? It made no sense to me, and it was an important realization. But then I thought to myself, how do we get out of this? How do we even break out of something as simple as the handshake? And I started to play with that idea. I started to take this physical, literal gesture of a handshake and think, is there a way to do something different? And that's when something hit me. My father, he's from the Asia-Pacific Islands. All throughout the Asia-Pacific Islands and the diaspora, there's a way of greeting people that's different. They don't do a lot of handshakes out there. It's very different. Hugging, kissing on the cheek, things of that nature. It's very cultural to them. But there's an indigenous gesture that I've known about for a very long time. It's a part of my heritage. It's a part of my ancestors. It's still practiced today in a lot of these different islands. It goes by a lot of different names. In New Zealand, it's called the hongi. In Hawaii, it's called honi. In the Philippines, where my father's from, it's called ongo. And it's done by pressing your forehead and your nose to another, closing your eyes, taking a deep and intentional breath with them. You share the breath of life with this person. It's how they greeted thousands of years ago, and it's still practiced today. And I just thought to myself for a minute, what if I greeted this individual that way? What would have changed? Now, if you've watched my TEDx talk, I talk about this, and it was amazing. Everything changed for me. This individual became so real in my mind's eye that all of this training that I had received from seeing people as people and all these things that I believed in, it became so viscerally real to me in that moment. And that's when I made this discovery that we have to break out of transaction in the very way that we interact with one another. The very way that we greet other people has to be different. Now, I knew that culturally, it was not going to be acceptable in the West, in Salem, Oregon, for me to just have people go and share the breath of life with each other. That was not going to be what happened. So I thought, what if I make it a metaphor? How do we work this into what we're doing? Now, a little bit time after that, I had this opportunity to integrate this into what we formed as a leadership institute. And things started to trickle and trickle and trickle and ripple and ripple and ripple. And we started to see amazing transformation happen. And I'm going to continue this story again. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to continue this story, but I want to keep moving, okay? I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about the big picture of what happened for so many years after running this institute, okay, this transformational lab. We tried all this stuff, this training and all these things, and then we formalized this leadership institute, and we started to integrate this gesture as one of the first things that we did to help break out of the transactional world that we live in. And it wasn't a literal thing. I wasn't telling people to do it, but what actually happened was people literally did it, and in the most respectful and thoughtful manner. The first time that I tried this, my first attempt, right? I come from that meeting and I think to myself, I need to do this with people, but I need to do it in a way that honors and respects my culture, but also isn't awkward or pushy for them. Okay, I need to figure out a way that I can talk about this. And the best way that I thought is I just need to demonstrate with them, right? So I had this first year of ever running Groundwork, this leadership institute. We had 15 of the most influential leaders together in a room, and I decided this is the moment. I'm going to talk about this gesture, and I'm going to invite them to metaphorically do it. Like I'm going to make it as real as I can without actually making them do this, right? Having them do this. So I get one of my, I'm going to skip ahead to a slide here that I want you to see. I get to one of my close friends. I pull him aside. He was helping me run this. He's a mentor of mine. He's in this picture. His name's Salam. And I ask him, I tell him about the gesture, and I tell him what it means. And I say, I want to get this point across. Will you help demonstrate this with me? And he said yes. He thought, I'll do that with you. We want to make this experience different for these leaders, so let's do it. And I come back into the room. I explain the significance of the gesture and the hope for breaking out of transaction. And we do this. And after this individual, still dear friend to me, typically stoic individual, was overcome with emotion. And he turned to the group and he explained to them how he felt this instant connection to me, responsible for me even. A feeling of love, not this deep sense of human love for me that he had never felt before. And now he's telling this to all these influential CEOs and leaders, that what it meant to him. And it was incredible. It was one of the most incredible moments of my life. And then to my surprise, one of those leaders raised their hand and they said, can we try this with each other, Chris? Would that be respectful? Would that be okay if we try this? Of course, I said, yes. And then I watched one by one these leaders stand up and share the breath of life with those next to them. Never in a million years would I have thought that would ever happen in that context with leaders outside of that culture grasping what this meant. It changed absolutely everything. The catalyst for transformation was somebody moving beneath the transaction. Just moving beneath started to change everything. Now, that's when these discoveries started to come about. So I'm going back to this slide. We started to integrate as much as we could of depth into our institute. Not through training, but through systems and process and habits, through rituals, through all of these different elements, and incredible things started to unfold. Years before, throwing all sorts of quick fix, Band-Aid solutions at it, we started to see happen as we built people over time. We worked with them for month after month after month, building systems, process, trying to see what worked, what didn't work. And after a while, one of the chapters in my book actually is called Push Record, because we decided after doing this for a couple of years, we need to push record. People are transforming, organizations are transforming, and our community is transforming. We got it. We have to document this. This is the point when I went back to school, I got my PhD, and this became my doctoral research, was what is creating transformation through this effort. We need to figure it out, and let's see if we can put a name to it. And that was a wonderful gift, and that is when these 7 conditions came to bear. There's a lot of themes that we understood. As we collected data and I conducted the research, a lot of things popped up as, oh, these things have helped, but these 7, I could have never told you the number 7 until now, but these 7 were the most consistent, the most spoken about, the most documented and recorded as the conditions that go into transforming people, organizations, and communities. Purpose. Deep and meaningful purpose, commitment, being committed even when it's difficult, having a common language that helps remind people who they are and what they believe in, being vulnerable, facing fears, opening the door that our fear tells us to keep shut, consistency, doing ordinary things with intention over and over and over again. Not because you're checking a box, but because you know that it matters. Trust, deep and trusting relationships. Focusing on depth instead of breadth. So many of us, we try to network and expand our networks. It was the depth of relationships that started to truly matter. And then lastly, this safe space, and not sort of the bubble-wrapped safe space that maybe trends right now, but the safe space that allows people to fail, to learn, and to practice, to become better versions of themselves. These 7 conditions were uncovered, and it started to make so much sense. Now, after that moment, we knew we discovered something, and we started working with different organizations here and there, all through word of mouth, doing deep dives, integrating this into systems and process within organizations. And I eventually had the opportunity, I stepped away from this research and work for a time to further expand the research. I stepped away into healthcare. I was recruited into healthcare, trained to be an executive in healthcare, and I was running my own operation as the CEO. And I didn't know anything about healthcare. I had to learn it. I didn't know much about financials, but I had to oversee all the financials, increase EBITDA margin, all of those things. But I did know something about culture at this point. And instead of going in and just training a bunch of people on what I wanted them to believe in culture, the only thing that I relied on was these 7 conditions. These 7 conditions for transformation in how I led, in the lens that I had, in the systems and the process that we were creating together. And in the healthcare world, there's an abundance of resources financially and clinically, almost none culturally. So this is a perfect grounds for this experiment. And I stepped into a failing building, had been losing money in the red for over 2 years, had gone through a couple of administrators, one of them way more seasoned than me as a CEO and as a leader. Many more years in healthcare, many more years as an executive leader. They couldn't turn the building around. They kept going through the same problem. The culture was broken. There was silos. There was not trust, losing money. Clinical outcomes were poor. Everything was failing. I mean, this building was only floating because it was part of a larger portfolio of buildings and owners, and they kept covering the losses with the success of their other buildings. But this one was failing. So I took it over, and within 30 days of only focusing on these 7 things, I was doing best practices and the basics financially and clinically, but anybody can do those. You can teach anybody to do those things, but you can't teach anybody to build culture. Not that quickly. But I had had years of experience of seeing these 7 conditions work. Now was this opportunity that I had to apply it sitting in the chair. I wasn't just consulting people or telling people, I got to do it. And that meant everything to me and to this organization and to these people, because within 30 days, trust went way up. Engagement went way up. People that used to cry before they walked in the doors at work because it was so toxic were now some of our greatest champions. They loved being there. It was a place that people wanted to show up. I had a janitor, one of our custodians, tell me one morning, I've been a custodian for 20 years. I've never been excited to come to work until here. That was one of the greatest data points that I could receive. But here's some compelling data points with actual numbers. In the first 30 days, we had a 200% swing in our bottom line. 200%. Negative 50,000 the month before, 30 days later, positive 60,000. Incredible. Huge swing. EBITDA margin increased. Our operational expenses decreased by 50%. 50%. Some of our key operational expenses decreased by 50%. Our turnover decreased by 50%. Everything changed quickly. And I'm a newbie to the industry. The only thing that I did different was focus on these 7 conditions. Not in a training program or some wonderful experience. We didn't do any of that. It was through consistent systems, habits, process. It was amazing. What I want you to do now is have the opportunity to experience some of these conditions in reflection of your own life. I know you've already been doing that in listening, but I want you to take this survey, okay? Now, I'm not going to sit around and wait for you to take it because this is a recording and I'm going to keep moving, but I want you to take this survey and I want you to clear your mind first before you take it. Okay, this is just a snapshot assessment. It's not a deep, thorough assessment, but it'll give you enough of a snapshot to see where your organization can start to make changes, maybe where some of your gaps are and where you can focus on more. So before you take it, I want you to clear your mind. I want you to think about your organization, be completely honest and take this. And I want to see your results, and I would love to talk through them with you. So to go back to this slide and to help us continue forward, this will only work if you are the catalyst. You have to change. You have to stop prescribing the problem of everybody else around you, like I was that day in the community event, and see that you have to be the first to change. It begins with you. Now, what do we do? Okay, this is to the point where I'm going to share with you what we do and why we would love to work with you. All right, the main approach that we take that's learned from all of our experience, I haven't said it yet, but it's been obvious. Transformation cannot be taught. It's caught. Transformation is caught. You cannot teach it to somebody. You have to help people catch it. And we do that through form of assessment, where we give a thorough assessment. We design something that's actually going to work for you, customized to you. I think that the world of standardized training needs to just be thrown out the window. I don't think that it's going to help improve anything in our organizations. The data's clear. It doesn't work. Throw standardized training away. It has to be custom and designed for you. It has to be. It has to be yours. You have to own it. You have to feel it. It has to reflect your vision, your values, what you want to create. And we want to help you design and create that through using the 7 conditions. You're not going to go in and teach 7 conditions. Hey, do this, this, this. We're going to help you design a process that sits on top of those 7 conditions that is yours. It's your way, not somebody else's way, and help you implement a couple of ways of doing this. Okay? The value that we bring is not in the knowledge itself. I've given you actually all the knowledge that you need. It's in how to use that knowledge, right? It's like baking a cake. The first time I ever tried to bake a cake when I was a teenager, it did not go well. It was flat. It didn't, the consistency was off, and it didn't taste that great. And it was because I read my mother's ingredient list in her cookbook, and I threw everything in a bowl and I mixed it up, threw it in the oven. I did not let the butter thaw how it was supposed to thaw. I did not mix the dry ingredients first. I didn't follow the directions. I just was throwing all the ingredients in. Knowledge doesn't always equal understanding. Understanding comes through trial and error, through lived experience. And we've lived that. I've lived that in a way that no one else has likely ever lived it. I had unlimited resources to figure this out for several years, and I learned through trial and error what actually works. And I want to share those things with you, and I want to help you build something that's meaningful and lasting. One of the things that we do is an organizational deep dive. We co-create an organizational assessment with you, right? Something that's going to directly get at your organization to help you understand where those gaps are. Remember, I talked about the gap. We want to help you understand where the gaps are. We take that information, and it's a formal write-up, and it's extensive, and it's professional. And we put that into now designing something. This takes several months. We want to design something for you that works. And we're doing a lot of the work, but we're doing it with you, okay? But we make sure that we design a system that's going to work for you. And lastly, we stay around to help you implement it. We're not just going to throw you under the bus and say, good luck. We know the power of walking alongside and helping you do this. So this is highly customized, it's long-term contracts, and it's a significant investment. So if your organization's ready for this, and this is what you want, I would say, let's do it. Let's go. We're ready, we can do this, and we have the resources to help you truly go in and guarantee transformational systems that's going to lead to transformational change. That data of only 30 to 20% of transformational efforts working will not be an issue through this organizational deep dive. We've done it enough to know what works, and we want to help you do it. Now, not all of us have the time and resources to do this. So what I'm most excited to actually share with you is this program that we've created. And it's taken a while to create this program because I've had to go through and see what works. I even left my company, Groundwork, and went into healthcare, a completely different industry, to validate what actually works, so that I can consolidate it and package it so that we can work with more people and help more organizations. So that's what this Leadership by Design cohort is. I call it the DIY cohort, right? The do-it-yourself cohort. We're not going to leave you, though. We're not just going to throw you out there and leave you alone. It's a community and a coaching group that you become a part of. And it still has the same elements: assessment, design, and implement. Assessment is done through helping you develop this assessment protocol and then having you go out and do it. Instead of us doing it, you're doing it, but we're going to give you the formula. We're going to give you the knowledge of and understanding of creating the assessment yourself. And it's not complicated. The second is this 2-day intensive, where we actually take 2 days thoroughly in small cohorts. These aren't big cohorts, 10 or less people at a time. And there's power in that collaboration, by the way, with other organizations and other people like you thinking about the same problem. We help you design something. We have an amazing process of doing that. We integrate the use of AI. We get you such a precise plan of action that you're going to know exactly what you're supposed to go back and do, which is the third, implement. And we help you implement as well through coaching and being part of a community with ongoing support. So you enter a world where you can step away from just training solutions and focus on building people, and it's yours. That's what I cannot overstate that enough. This is yours. I'm not giving you some one-size-fit-all solution. I'm not telling you, here's the standardized training and approach, do that. We're helping you create your own. And this is going to be part of your legacy. It's going to be part of what actually works and creates lasting change in your organization, so that you can actually say that what you believe in is what people really feel. Not just one or two people, not just your champions, everyone. That is possible. I don't know how else to say it. It is so possible. And I've seen it, and I want to see it happen in your organizations. And one of the most accessible ways is through this Leadership by Design cohort and program. And it's much more affordable. It's based on your time. We work around your schedule, and we make it work for your environment and your organization. And you get to be part of a community of people that are also trying to do the same thing. Okay? At the end, I'm going to give you, excuse me, I have an itch. I'm a human, sorry. At the end, I'm going to give you a QR code where you can go to our landing page that gives you all the information that you need about this, and we can hop on a phone call and talk about it. But I will say there is an investment. It's not anything like a deep dive, and it's going to be much less than what you're used to spending in your training and development budget, because I'm not in this work because I just want to charge people a bunch of money and make a bunch of money. That's not why I'm doing this. There's lots of other things that I could do, including what I was doing as a healthcare executive, that would provide me those things. I believe in this. I've lived it. I've bled for it. I've sweat for it. I want to help people go through transformational change. I've seen it change my life. I've seen it change organizations. I've seen it change an entire community. And I've built amazing relationships along the way because of this work is the right work that we are supposed to be doing. Do not waste another day. Do not waste another minute in your organization not building people. It's why we're here. It's why we're here. Use your opportunities and your situation as a vehicle to help you become the best version of yourself and to help people around you do the same. Now, the last thing that I want to share, I saved for last because it's my favorite piece. And also, we're coming up on 40 minutes, and I said this was going to be short. So just know that I apologize for my misspeaking when I started recording this. But if you're still watching this, thank you. And I hope that we can have a conversation soon. We were born out of philanthropy, and that's the vision that we want to carry on for people. We will continue to carry that vision throughout everything that we do. And I don't have the resources like that philanthropist had to just throw millions of dollars into solving this problem. But I do have a resource, and it is this knowledge that we've attained through trial and error, through research, through practical application that we want to share, and we want to share that with everyone. And you help make that possible. Every client that we work with that pays for anything that we do with them, any services, a speech that I come out and give, a keynote speech, we go in and we consult with you, or you come through one of our programs. That allows somebody who cannot afford these sort of services, we'll say, or a program, to participate. So for example, if you participate in one of our cohorts, we want to invite you to bring somebody with you. Somebody that could benefit from this, their organization could benefit, but maybe they're a nonprofit, they could never afford it. We want to continue to develop this philanthropic spirit of bringing people in, developing people, collaborating with one another. All right, that's such an exciting thing for us, because I've seen the power in that. I've seen the power in having a philanthropic gesture make all the difference for a community and for an organization. So if you are able, well, quickly, our vision, catalyze transformation throughout the world. But if you are able to participate in our program, and it's registration is now, and our next cohort is actually not January 20th and 21st. I should have changed this. I'm really sorry. It's actually February 10th and 11th. So I'm actually gonna, let's see if we can exit this, and I'm gonna change it right now. Okay, February 10th. If my computer works, my keyboard, 10th and 11th. That's when our program will begin. And if you register, if you're one of our early registrants, so if you register now, then the first 3 we're going to allow to invite somebody with them. So someone in your community, a nonprofit, or some organization that you know would never be able to invest the resources into this, the money. We want you to invite them, and it's completely covered. And we want you to actually tell them that we're not paying for it, but you are. Cost doesn't change. The cost is going to be the same, but we want to make sure that they're coming because of you, right? And you're inviting them. So you can learn more about that. Reach out to us, follow this QR code, watch the other videos that we have to get more information on our program, and this Leadership by Design program that we have. Reach out to us. We want to have a conversation. And if those deep dives are something of interest to you as well, you can let us know. If you want me to come out and speak at a summit or a kickoff meeting or to your organization or your community, let me know. We want to do that. We have an amazing keynote experience that truly transforms people in an hour. We have this full experience. We take pictures and portraits of people. It's really quite a unique and incredible experience. We want to work with you. We have an incredible message that we want to share. This wasn't started because we want to start a business and make money. This was started because we want to share what we've learned. We had the gift to learn this. We had the gift of time to learn this, and we want to share that with you. It's been a privilege being able to share all this information. I hope that I can speak with you soon. Appreciate the work that you do. The work of building culture and building people is not easy. Until next time, stay tuned. Follow us on socials. We're going to keep putting out more and more content that's free. We want to be helpful. Talk to you later.